Everyone. There we go. I see Elizabeth.
Here.
Nice. Can you see me all right? Can you hear me?
Yes, it's perfect. You're doing great. I know.
Awesome. It's my first one.
First of many, I'm sure. It's going to be great. We got lots
well,
to talk about.
Well, thanks for joining. A lot. You know how our last call went. We didn't stop. So
Exactly. You can tell we have a lot of passion around the gaps for caregivers. The list is endless. I love the report that you all put out, Carewell.
Thank you. So why don't we start a little bit with some background information. We'll introduce ourselves and then we'll go in because we did this awesome report that we'd love to talk about for National Family Caregivers Month. But before we get there, I'm Bianca. I'm co-founder, CEO of Carewell. A little bit about my background. I started the company after falling into becoming a caregiver for the first time. It was me and my mom and my sister caring for my grandmother, and we still do. And it really changed the course of our life, understanding all of the challenges that caregiving presents and the struggles, for many, many years. And one of the things that we noticed was there was no great resource for the products that we needed to buy on an everyday basis to take care of her. And so my husband, and it was really a family company, I've got family who works with us, started the company a couple of years back, and we've grown ever since, thanks to the love and support from other caregivers. So I'll kick it off to you, Elizabeth.
Yes, I love it. And by the way, we featured Bianca's story if you want to hear the whole thing on Happy Healthy Caregiver podcast episode. I'm Elizabeth Miller. I'm the founder of Happy Healthy Caregiver, and I'm a certified caregiving consultant. And I too have a personal story with caregiving. So back in 2014, my husband and I, we call it the spiral year. Things were just spiraling out of control. We were sandwich generation folks working full time, caring for our aging parents and our kids at the same time. And we were losing our minds. We were in the peak of our careers and we just felt like, why is this so hard? This should not be so hard. And I know a lot of the topics that we're going to talk about are near and dear to my heart. So I just felt like a lot of people were shooting on me as a caregiver on how I could take better care of my loved ones, but nobody was really checking in on my husband and I, and we just were drowning and holding everything up. So Happy Healthy Caregiver and everything that I have kind of created with the different resources in the podcast is really about talking to the family caregiver and supporting the family caregiver, because we see you. We both see you, don't we, Bianca?
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, after some introductions, I see tons of waves and a ton of people on. But let's start talking about what it is, right? It's National Family Caregivers Month, and that's really a time for us to recognize and honor all the family caregivers across the country, across the world, really. And Carewell is bringing awareness to the lack of support that caregivers face. And so to kick off this month, we released a report highlighting the gaps in support that caregivers face, as well as how to better meet the needs of caregivers. So we surveyed actually over 400 caregivers throughout the country, really to understand what their needs were and what those specific areas of support they needed, so that we can highlight those, we can bring attention to them, and we can better educate those around us. Based off the feedback, we then recommend how families, how employers, how just general community, society, governments can really set up to provide the support that we all need. And so anything you'd like to add before we get started?
I love that we have National Family Caregivers Month to bring this awareness to folks and to really get these topics to the forefront. Because while you and I are seeing caregivers and talking about them 365 days a year, we need employers, we need companies, we need a government, we need everybody else to kind of really see the 53 million plus caregivers in just the US alone. So I love that you all got this kind of feedback, and let's go for it. Let's dive in.
Awesome. So the report, you can find it online. You can find it on our social media. We've gotten tons of great feedback. But first, we're going to highlight 5 key topics. It's going to be support from family friends, governmental support, community resources, employer support, and society's role. So just as a brief overview, but let's get started on family and friends, because I think this one's the one that surprised me almost the most. So respondents were satisfied with the support of their family and friends. And when we asked them, how are you feeling about this in terms of level of satisfaction? 0 being the least satisfied and 10 being most satisfied. The average level of support was an 8. that to me was pretty surprising because I do hear a lot that people don't feel much support, they feel alone, etc. So let's dig into that one. And before we get started, I want to highlight two key points. When we ask them what about the type of support that they find most helpful, 56% wanted more emotional support. So that actually ranked really high. And then second and third were help with care recipient and respite care, came in second and third, right? And then finally it was financial support with 20%, which actually was the least. And I thought that would be the most. So let's get started.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too. And I'm curious if the folks on have any opinions on what their findings were. I'm wondering too, like the friend and family support, because that is something as a coach I hear a lot about people, why aren't people helping me? Why do I have to ask for help? Things like that. And I'm almost wondering, like, Carewell is amazing. And at that point, I feel like people have accepted their caregiving role and maybe are in a more pragmatic, practical place where they've kind of got their systems in place. And so some of the entrenched, overwhelmed, rookie caregivers out there may not have discovered Carewell yet or Happy Healthy Caregiver, and so they're still out there floundering for that support. So I'm thinking maybe that was part of it, but I'm curious too, like the report you said it was 56% wanted more emotional support. That part did not surprise me. I feel like a lot of caregivers are lacking emotional support, and I'm curious for the folks that are watching the live today, like, what is emotional support for you?
Yes.
What does it look like for you, Bianca? What does emotional support look like?
A lot of times it's just having the opportunity to just complain, and a lot of times you just need that time to complain. So I think that's part of it. I think in terms of emotional support for me also, a lot of emotional support is just showing up for people, right? It's like, that they care when they do certain things. And I think a lot of times, I talk about like love languages, like what is your love language, and ask the person in your family who's the caregiver what their love language is, so you can show them that support in that way. But for me, it's really showing up. It's offering, hey, like, do you need somebody to take care of, your mom or your dad when you go away, right? Or let me know when you need that help. Like, even having the verbal offer is emotional support to me. So both the listening, having the opportunity to complain and laugh. I would say, like, you have to sometimes laugh through the pain. And then two, somebody who's really just like showing up for you and asking how they can support. That's the other way. How about you?
Yeah, I think I agree with that. And I think people are echoing what you're saying. Like, they just need someone to vent to. Some people say they haven't found support yet. For me, when I was, drowning in caregiving, I wanted to find, I was reading books like when I had the time, or I was listening to podcasts. I was searching for people that were in my situation. Eventually I found some folks at work, and I know, we're going to talk into the work part of it too, but talking about it and listening to other people's stories and just feeling validated. It's like, I don't want more advice, unsolicited advice on what I should be doing as a family caregiver. I want people to just bring more joy into my life by either giving me hands to do, to take off a task on my to-do list, or just, hey, I'm thinking about you, a text, a card, a phone call, like you've been a hug, now that we're back to, hugging more regularly. All of that, I think, is just like giving people that shoulder.
Yeah, and I think just showing up. I think people stop showing up and like literally to your house and things because they just don't know how to interact. And like caregivers want to see people, right? They're alone a lot. So show up to people's house, like try to get back into the routine, ask them if they want to go on a walk, because that's another type of just like being supportive, that like your life still matters and I'm not going to treat you differently because of a different situation that you're in today.
Yeah,
and it's
them how they are.
Yes.
How are you? We immediately go to our care partners and our care recipient, like, how is so-and-so doing? And you kind of list everyone else, like, how are you doing? And then even as caregivers, we find that a lot of times they answer how their care recipient is. It's like, and I'll kind of correct them. I'm like, no, I'm really asking, like, how are you doing? And pick one of those feelings out. And fine is not a feeling. That does not count. You have to find something else.
Yeah. I mean, that there's no surprise, right, that the second one is help with the care recipient and respite care, right? And so it's just like, I think people just don't know how to ask, and they feel like almost like they don't want to burden somebody, or they don't want to think that someone needs like support. I don't want like, my aunt thinking that I can't do this. And so I think that that's another important thing is like, how do caregivers want to be asked, right? Or how can we give advice to the family members on how to ask, hey, how can I help? Because sometimes it's just awkward, right? And like, it's okay to be awkward and you got to push through that discomfort.
It's like almost like some people keep a list in their phone. I have some worksheets that I give folks that kind of can divide and conquer the different caregiving or home responsibilities. Taking something off your home plate frees up time for other things too. And your report said something too. It said that the average duration of somebody caregiving is 4 years. So 4 years, like you can't go 4 years without asking for help from other people. Like this is not a solo caregiving situation. In order to kind of go the distance, and you're going to need a team, not even like one other person. It's a team of people, a care team to collaborate on that, or you're going to burn out. And at 40 to 70% of caregivers have said they're depressed, have depression. Like, so something's got to change.
And it's more fun, right? It's more fun to do it with people that you love around you. So that's another reason to do it.
Yeah, many hands make light work for sure.
Okay, so I think that's a good one. I think I see a lot of things coming through, and I can't see them all, but I can't wait till after so I can read through them, because this is a lot of great feedback that we can that we're collecting, so we can write and we can talk about these things in future lives. But the next major topic is going to be governmental support, right? So this was no surprise to me either. Actually, I was actually surprised it was so high. On a scale of 0 to 10, again, 0 being unsatisfied and 10 being most satisfied, the average level of satisfaction from governmental assistance programs available to caregivers was rated a 4. So caregivers selected financial assistance and free respite programs as the most beneficial from them. And while there's many, and I quote this, many governmental benefits available for caregivers through Medicare and Veterans Affairs, what I tend to find is that most families are not eligible. So, that's unfortunate. And 2, it's really hard to figure out what exists in your local neighborhood, because there are so many different resources that are provided through different agencies that it's really hard to just navigate these systems. And then to find out that you're not even eligible kind of just ruins it at the end too. What were your thoughts based off of this?
Yeah, it's like I came up empty when I was caregiving, looking for the government. I mean, I didn't qualify. None of my parents, like you said, none of them were in the military or veterans. My parents didn't have anything cognitive. So sometimes I was coming across things maybe for Alzheimer's or dementia folks. So I feel like if you're not in the military, you're kind of not in the Alzheimer dementia camp, which there's still not a lot even in those areas. And then if I know my mother-in-law made like 800 and something on her Social Security check and didn't qualify for Medicaid. Like we were scratching our head about that services. Some states, little by little are offering paid support for caregivers. Like I have friends, I know that you're even on this. I see Rachel out there today. Like she cares for her spouse who was paralyzed in a plane accident. So she cannot work. Like she's, someone had to kind of do all the duties at the house and stuff. He works, he makes more money working, and then she gets paid a little bit for her. But it's so more states being paid, I think, for that caregiving support, because a lot of caregivers have to leave their jobs to provide care. The cost of medicines and supplies, like I know even my groceries have gone up exponentially in the last couple of years. So many of the expenses are on the rise. And I did not find support. And somebody was saying they didn't find support in their area. I mean, the areas on aging, like they have some activities maybe for older adults. Maybe they do an expo fair here and there, but I just never really felt like I got that validation there. So I had to find something else. In fact, I ended up creating a daughterhood circle in Atlanta because like I needed it.
Oh, wow.
Just as other people needed it in the area. So I was like, well, Atlanta's got to have one. I'm going to start one.
Yeah, Atlanta's a huge city. Like, how did you not have one?
I don't know. There's so many places that don't have one. So now, there's a network of us with coaches and through like the caregiving.com champions and the daughterhood circles that like I will help somebody find a support circle if they can't find one on their own.
That's awesome. Speaking of support circles, the next one is community resources. This one was not a surprise and yet a surprise at the same time. Regarding community resources, 76% of respondents indicated indicating never having used a caregiving resource available in their community. So quite high. very high, too high, right? Because we all feel so alone. And we really need each other's, and in fact, the last comment, right? I love this live. I don't feel alone. That's what we always hear on the phones. And we have a huge customer support team. We've got over 50 people, all US based 24/7, particularly for this reason, right? Because you're just afraid and you just need a human to talk to sometimes. But according to a study by United Healthcare and National Alliance for Caregiving, 70% of caregivers use social media to find information or support relating caregivers. So it shows that caregivers are looking for support and community, but they just don't know where to go. So that's why I love doing things like this, and we want to do this more and more, is to really create that community support on social media, because that's where people are going today. So what are your thoughts? I know you're on social media often. I see your posts all the time.
Yeah, you know, and it's like, I know even when people can't join it live, like they might see the replay or they're going to catch the hashtag on the day that they need it. What I love about social media is that it's available, you know, 24/7. And so people in the nooks and crannies of their day, they can kind of go and get that affirmation. And we have this thriving community of people, of caregivers. You know, once you kind of get in it and you start posting, and like people are sharing their stories and being vulnerable about that. And I think that's normalizing the conversations around caregiving, which is so important. It feels weird at first, like sharing about caregiving. And of course, you know, a lot of times you have to get your care partner's permission if they're okay with that. My mom was completely on board. Like she felt like, you know, we had a lot to share there. I'm shocked though by the community resources of 76%. It makes me sad. I'm just curious, like, what do you think it is, Bianca? Like, why is that so high that people are not tapping into those?
I mean, for me, I thought that they would go online, they would find someone. I think personal experience, I don't like being vulnerable on the internet. Like that's a new thing for me. I grew up with social media portion of my life, but the tail end. So even doing this live, this is my first time doing live. It's my first time talking about this with, you know, all sorts of people. So I think it's just a matter of, and I literally just wrote this down, like be vulnerable, and like we should make that into a hashtag. To be vulnerable, like the first time you come out here, open up. Like there's a community of people who are waiting to offer you help because they know what they've been through, they know what you're going through, and ultimately this is what we all want for each other, is a sense of support and community. And so I think we just need to open it up more and ask people to come forward and say, hey, it's scary. We're doing this for the first time. Like, who's here for the first time? You know, raise your hand and then let's speak up, right? And so maybe we could try that now.
And, you know, I think part of it too, when I was thinking about it, is like, I didn't call myself a caregiver. Like I was a daughter of aging parents. I was, you know, sandwich generation was the term I had linked onto. So without knowing and really accepting that role that you're a family caregiver. And so I almost feel like we need to just say what it is. Like if you're a family caregiver, if you're helping anybody with their activities of daily living, like you're helping them with their, you know, toileting, their personal care, their eating, their transportation, I guess that's an IADL, but you're helping their medication management. Like even if you're doing it from a distance they don't have to live with you to be a family caregiver. They can live, you know, across the country, out of the country, like you could still be checking on them. So we do kind of need to normalize and like that label of being a family caregiver. It does not mean that you're taking care of someone they could live in assisted living. They could live in a community, but I know that I would say if I could wave a magic wand, I would love for healthcare in particular, if anyone's listening, to really just provide resources for family caregivers so that they don't have to like bang their head against the wall and try to Google and find it and know the terms to search for. It's like somebody has just made it accessible to them. You know, they're so good about giving us the diabetes management, the wound care, all of those things. It's like, hey, here's something for you. Here's some support for you.
Yeah, I just read a comment right now that it's so overwhelming. You don't even know where to go. And that's exactly how I felt. And that's why I wanted to start this company, because I was like, how is there just not a place to go? Right? We're all going through this. There's 53 million Americans who are caregivers, right? And you're right. One, it's like they don't call themselves caregivers. They don't give themselves the credit either, because if you don't live with that person, you might feel like, oh, that's a big responsibility. And even though I'm just providing certain aspects of care, like you're still a caregiver, right? And you need to give yourself credit.
It's taking away from, you know, you say yes to something, you say no to something else. And, you know, Life with Grams is saying it's a runaround to actually get the resources you need. I called Department of Aging. So that's a government area on aging, and was given 3 different numbers. That was given the same number I was already called. Yeah, and it's that's kind of the first thing people give people is the area on aging. I have not really heard a success story there. So if you have one, I'm all ears, people. So, but community resources, it's usually something like, even if you're like, you know, I know from my book club, like it wasn't a caregiving support group, but I found a lot of caregiving support through my book club. But I already had this like lifeline of women that were my people, and not a lot of people have that. And so I think reaching out to support before you need it, you're going to get that emotional validation. A lot of times I find, like, even in my daughterhood circle, like people come and they're already in crisis mode. Like, what would happen if you came before crisis mode and, you know, you had kind of this place to just ask questions and go to. Someone was saying, you know, how do I find support? I would say, you know, I can try to help you. Another certified caregiving coach, I can give you somebody in your area. Certified senior advisors are great because there are people like in elder care and occupational therapy, PT, that those folks that have gone through the training, they usually know where you can find that. Sometimes it's through your condition of your loved one, like an Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, cancer. Like, ask the doctors, ask the resources there. Or just, you can Google caregiver support in the name of your city. You might get lucky. There might be a faith community or something that's going to have something.
And one of the things that's really, I always think about is like caregiving is so many things, right? It's managing prescription medication. It's now being a negotiator. It's now being an advisor, right? It's now being the person who takes someone to the hospital and has to like understand all of the different terms. It's now being a nutritionist. It's all of these different things. So it really depends on like what it is that you're going through and the type of support you need. And so I always find that there's a couple of things. Write it down and then look for those particular instances. It'll be much easier than just searching like caregiver support, because that's just such a broad term that like caregiving encompasses so many things. It's going to be a lot harder to find something that way.
Yeah. So one of the things too, like if you're caring for an aging parent, like elder law care attorneys, they are so ingrained, particularly like you have to get the paperwork anyway, usually for your power of attorney, your advance directives, things like that anyway. So it's like peace of mind there. And then just asking the people, all the people you have appointments with, your doctors, like just keep asking the questions. But the best advice, frankly, comes from other family caregivers. So if you can, even if it's somebody, through your kid's school or through work or something like, and you see somebody randomly at a fast food restaurant that clearly is a caregiver, hey, I'm looking for support in the area. Like that's where you get the really amazing nuggets, particularly for the local community resources.
And if anyone on this live or anyone else has any questions, we don't just answer product questions. We actually have communities. We partner with people like Elizabeth all the time. So like we have a lot of the folks that we would recommend out. Just send us your questions. Ask us on social media, send us an email, give us a call. And if we don't have the question, we'll find somebody who can give you that answer. Or we don't have the answer to that question. We have likely in our community somebody that we can recommend you to. So don't be afraid to ask. Just come and say like what it is that you need help with, and we will help. That's what we're all here for, right?
You guys have white glove service. Like I know when I first started working with you, I was like, I'm going to just check and see how this phone number really works. And it totally lives up to everything that you've said, Bianca. So
we started the company not just to sell products, right? It was really to be a solution and advisory service for caregivers. So that's why I always say, like, you might just not recognize it, but come to me, come to Elizabeth, come to one of us on our team. We can find you and point you in the right direction if you have any particular need.
Stacy says she's looking for someone in Northern Virginia. I know there's a daughterhood circle there because Ann Tumlinson lives in the Washington, D.C. area, and she started daughterhood.org. So, but a lot of the coaches, too, offer complimentary coaching session initially. So take advantage of that. It's a lot easier to be vulnerable on a one-on-one than it is to kind of learn out that. I learned about booster pads from Carewell. I don't even know what a booster pad is. I need to learn what that is.
It's like they call them a doubler. And so essentially when you wear an incontinence, like underwear or an underwear or a brief, you add it as like an extra source of
We needed boosters.
absorbency.
My mom was putting like multiple poise pads.
You do not put poise pads. It's so bad. It's so bad for your health, like in terms of your skin integrity, because booster pads allow the pad to soak up the urine, and it allows it to pass through once that absorbency layer is full. Poise pads won't, right? So you'll go on top of them, and then what happens is there's a backing, so the liquid cannot drain out into the actual like pull up or the breathe. And then it just causes like skin breakdown. It causes leakage off the side. So use booster pads if you want extra absorbency. Or the other thing is to just move up in absorbency.
This is why the caregiver community is so amazing. Like I've been doing this for years and I didn't know that. And I
you
tell you all about my
It's like the number one thing.
Bottom.
Oh yeah. We tell it all the time because it saves you money, it saves you time when you use it, but also it saves like your skin integrity. You don't want to have rashes, you don't want to have skin breakdown, especially at an older age where your skin is just not as healthy. It doesn't heal as quickly. That's going to be a big lifesaver for everybody.
Somebody, Rachel's saying, can you take the airlines on to task over disabilities issues? That's a thing I've been hearing a lot too. People flying and traveling, and the airlines, like there's so much education about people who work in these different, that come into contact with all of our caregivers and our care recipients, and we can do better there for sure. Should we move on to employer support?
Yes, employer support. So survey found that 69% of caregivers selected flexibility, no surprise, as the best way that employers can support them. Remote work or schedule flexibility, like starting work at specific times or the freedom to block out your calendar when necessary. That allows working caregivers to balance both their responsibilities and their roles better. And this was a shock to me, is that the average caregiver was providing 40 hours of care to their loved one while working outside of the home. So that's 2 full-time jobs. What that was.
Yeah, I can tell you it's exhausting. I didn't feel like I had a full-time job, but I definitely had a part-time job on top of my full-time job. And I know what helped me as a working professional was the things you were talking about, flexibility, and that was pre-COVID. But not everybody has that. And I think that's amazing that work from home has been more normal since the pandemic. But I think also what I love to see is the rise in affinity or employee resource groups for caregivers, or even women. Like we know a lot of family caregivers are women. Being able to use your PTO for not just to take care of me when I'm sick or my kids, but I used to have to fly up and relieve my sister for respite in Michigan. And I'd explain to my boss, listen, this isn't a vacation. Like I'm using PTO time. I'm a relief for my sister. And so I had to basically educate him about that. And then a lot of people don't use their employee assistance programs. If you work for a bigger company, sometimes they have things like legal advice, financial advice. They'll do referrals. They'll look up, assisted livings in your community. They might find you caregiving support, and you can definitely have, some talk therapy that's paid for through them. So employers are definitely getting better. I'm giving them a lot more kudos these days than government and a lot of the other things that I see happening. Like employers are stepping up.
Yeah, and they have to, right? Like there is a labor shortage, and you've got to be able to work with the employee and the talent pool that's out there. And most of them are going to be caregivers in their life, right? The support ratio for the caregiver support ratio is going down from 7 available people who can care for somebody over the age of 85 to 4 over the next 15 years. So we have to, in order to keep employees, employed, and obviously the wage has gone up so much that, they're in a position of power, and they should be, because they provide a lot of, great work to companies. So, okay, the last one, because we've got just a couple minutes here, is society's role. When asked how society as a whole can support caregivers, 53% of respondents asked for understanding and patience. Numerous respondents also mentioned how acknowledging their role and efforts would go a long way, while others focus on the need for companionship, as caregiving can be an isolating experience. And then you mentioned this earlier, but 40 to 70% of caregivers experience signs of depression. And that's due to the demand and the isolation that comes with it. So it's really up to us as society to support caregivers whenever we can and offer that compassion proactively without them having to ask us, right? And understanding. So thoughts there?
Yes, I mean, there's a lot we can do, and use this National Family Caregivers Month as an opportunity to, you know, if you see somebody ahead of you that's got a, you know, a handicap sticker, or someone is helping, like, buy them, or behind you, buy them a coffee. Just find ways to infuse joy in their everyday. You know, make them a playlist, send them a text, send them a little card or a present, just something to help them infuse joy in their day, because they're doing a lot to make the whole system work. They're basically like a big project manager of their entire family, and it's exhausting. So to see that person and to really just let them know that you appreciate them, and then pull them out for a lunch break, make them have respite with you, say, let's go get a hike outside, whatever it is that you can do. Just like you said earlier, Bianca, like, just show up, just do something.
Yeah, I love that. Even as simple as sending a text with a heart, like, that goes a long way. I bet you that person will tear up, because I know I would. I know my mom would. And so it's really that simple. So just show up, send a text, you know, love them a little bit extra, especially this month.
So true. That's so true. It's not hard. It's just, yeah, it's just a little of the bit goes a long way. Spread the kindness around like confetti. I love that.
Yes.
Let's do more of that.
Okay, everyone. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining my first Instagram live. I'm sure you've done this several times because you look like a pro. And really looking forward to doing this again. And if you guys have any feedback for us, please let us know. So the next time we go to do this, we can answer more of your questions, and we can provide more support and more love. So thank you.
Yeah, check out the report on Carewell. It's amazing. So you can read all about it and send it to your employer or whoever else needs to know about it. Thanks, yes, everybody. Thank you, Bianca, for putting this together and just showing up for caregivers.
Have a good one. Bye.
Take care, y'all.